The helicopter crash that killed Kobe Bryant and many others is one of the most devastating things to happen in the sports world history. But there are some things about the pilot that are not being said and even talked about. So, what really happened? Kobe Bean Bryant, a flat out legend on and off the court. I could talk about the Mamba for days. He just meant so much to me and so many other people. And even as I'm making this video, I'm wearing my Kobe Bryant high school jersey. Only the real and true Kobe fans remember those days. So in honor of Kobe Bryant himself, all money made from this video will be donated to the Kobe Bryant and Vanessa Bryant Family Foundation. And if you're wondering, and before you go, yo, why are you donating to them? They don't need money. The money doesn't go to them. It's a foundation for the youth and the kids, and that's what Kobe was all about, inspiring the kids. With all that being said, let's get into the video, man. Before Kobe Bryant even boarded his helicopter, the weather conditions were flat out terrible. It was so foggy that the Los Angeles Police Department didn't allow any other helicopters to fly until later in the afternoon. So now, here comes the question. Why was Kobe Bryant's helicopter allowed to even fly? Even though pilots of other helicopters were not given the clear to fly, Kobe Bryant's pilot was. Not only was he given the clear to fly, but he was also allowed to fly without relying on instruments to guide him. Now let's pump the brakes. Before we get into all of that, let's throw it all the way back to where things started. The helicopter involved in the accident was flown to John Wayne Airport in Orange County about 30 minutes before taking off with Kobe. At 8:53 a.m., weather conditions showed only 5-mile-per-hour winds and overcast skies. And this is very key right here. Visibility was labeled at right about 4 miles. With that being said, the temperature was 57 degrees with a dew point of 50. All that basically means is that there was enough moisture in the air to generate low cloud cover. So almost of all the LA area airports grounded their helicopters. But for some odd reason, Kobe's pilot was given the okay to fly. Now of course, a helicopter that is carrying Kobe Bryant, you're gonna be more confident in that one because it's definitely more special. I mean, it definitely goes without being said, Kobe Bryant, he doesn't just travel in a regular helicopter. He is going to travel in the best of the best equipment because he's Kobe Bryant. It's plain and simple. The S-76 helicopter, also registered as the N-72EX, had a historically great and strong safety record. So maybe the pilot and even the people who gave the pilot to even fly in these weather conditions were a little too overconfident. Just think about it. Would you have more confidence flying in a normal helicopter or a helicopter that Kobe Bryant is flying in? Yeah, that's what I thought. Regardless of whether the helicopter should have even been in the air or not, it took flight. So let's get into what happens next. Only about 15 minutes into the flight, the helicopter entered a holding pattern just west of Glendale. If you don't know what a holding pattern is, it's basically where the helicopter just flies around in a circle. And this helicopter remained in this pattern circling for about 10 to 15 minutes. And now this is where things start to get really weird and just kind of fishy. There are two reasons why they were circling. One is that they were unable to cross from the LA airspace into a region controlled by the Hollywood Burbank Airport. And now here's the strange other one. The other part of the delay was caused by a transition to special VFR rules. Now this is very and extremely important, so we gotta go into what VFR rules and whatnot it is. When a pilot is granted permission to fly, each flight is operated under VFR or IFR regulations. VFR stands for Visual Flight Rules. Long story short, when you're flying under VFR, it just means the pilot is allowed to fly by sight. It's just a judgment call. Everything the pilot sees, that's how he's going to fly, according to how the weather is and etc. And I know a lot of y'all might want the actual definition, and here it is, quote unquote. VFR flight is based on the principle of see and avoid. So it sounds like common sense, right? You see something that's not good, you avoid it. Yeah, so that's what they were operating under. However, that doesn't seem right because it was foggy. So why was he even allowed to operate under the VFR rules? Now let's get into the other set of rules, which is the IFR. IFR stands for the Instrument Flight Rules. Now these rules are for when an aircraft cannot be safely operated visually. This is normally more common at night when a pilot cannot really see what's going on, so they operate under these rules. And it's also operated when conditions are very poor, which were the case here. But as this helicopter transitioned into the Burbank's airspace, the pilot requested, and not only requested, but was approved to press under the special VFR flight conditions. So basically what that means is that he was approved to continue to fly as a VFR under these terrible conditions. One thing to keep in mind, and a reason why he probably didn't switch over to the IFR, is that a switchover takes a lot of time and it is very time consuming in such a busy airspace. But what I am about to tell you next is about to blow your mind. There were even questions if this helicopter even had the necessary system in place for a single pilot to operate under these IFR conditions. I know I'm kind of translating this to y'all because it makes more sense when I say it in my point of view, but basically all this means is that the helicopter was not even equipped to operate under a single pilot in these conditions. So as I'm saying this, it just really goes back to the main point. Why was this helicopter even allowed to fly this day? Let's continue on with this strange story. Between 9:40 and 9:44 a.m., the helicopter flew between 1,000 and 1,200 feet high. And around the time of the crash, here were the weather observations from the airport. They recorded visibility of 2.5 miles with 80% humidity. And earlier that morning, humidity was only 50%. So that means the humidity had a huge increase as the day went on. And what the humidity does, it basically makes it more foggy and more cloudy. However though, one strange thing is that the winds were actually pretty calm at the time. During this time period, it actually appeared that the helicopter was flying below the clouds. The aircraft was said to be probably about 300 to 500 feet above the surface. And under special VFR conditions, all aircrafts are required to maintain an altitude of at least 500 feet. So why in the world was this pilot only traveling 300 to 500? Let's just continue on. Not only is the minimum requirement 500 feet, but it's also 1,000 feet above the nearest obstacle. However you want to look at it, whether he was 300 or 500 feet in the air, the minimum is 500 and you're supposed to really be at right around 1,000. So there was really no excuse for this pilot to not be at that limit. So now it leaves us with this question. Why in the world was this pilot below 1,000? It did, however, appear that the pilot encountered trouble, which was the fog, and it reduced his visibility a ton. So now, let's dive into when things really got crazy. At 9:44 a.m., the helicopter began to ascend rapidly, climbing 875 feet in the air. And a guy who also flies helicopters, quote unquote, goes on to say this. That pace at which he climbed indicates he's trying to get out of there, or he got spatially disoriented. He also went on later to add this. That's a very common thing investigators find post-crash. The pilot makes rapid corrections and rapid maneuvering. He does something radical to try to change that. It appears something went wrong. And the last quote I'm gonna use from him, I just think it's interesting, that's why I'm using this. He goes on to say this. In situations like that, pilots do things with the controls they otherwise wouldn't normally do. He described it as a panic situation. The very sudden climb actually carried the helicopter into a layer of fully saturated air and extremely low visibility. A weather station northwest of the crash site actually reported them at 100% humidity, which that basically means that they was probably in the clouds at the time. And also, it is very likely that the nearby mountains and terrain was completely covered by the fog. At 9:45 a.m., the helicopter dropped 350 feet in 6 seconds. However, no additional data is available after 9:45 a.m. Based off of the debris patterns, many pilots have said that this is a clear instance of controlled flight into terrain. And these crashes typically occur when visibility is the main issue. And for those of you that don't know, being spatially disoriented is a huge problem. It's where the pilot kind of gets confused and really starts losing his mind. You try to make decisions very quick and very rapidly, and you wind up hurting yourself even worse. A lot of times you lose your place of thought and you kind of forget where you are in the sky. And just by going off of the definition and examples of spatially disoriented, this sounds like the exact thing of what happened to this pilot. It's really sad to say and think about, but he probably just got really scared and started making decisions without thinking. The helicopter out of nowhere ascended really high out of nowhere. So basically this pilot probably thought they was too low and he tried to fix things really fast and he just went really high, and that's where he lost control and he couldn't see anything at all. I think it's more than safe to say, and what probably happened is that this pilot just lost his mind. Regardless of what happened, it's just really sad, and my prayers and thoughts go out to everyone involved. So, whether or not this pilot just completely lost his mind or he got lost in the fog and couldn't see at all, it's just a sad situation. But one thing's for sure, Kobe Bryant's legacy is going to live on forever. But hey man, with all this being said, that's about gonna wrap up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys learned something. If you are new to my channel, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button and leave a like for more. Join the family. And like I said earlier, all money made from this video will be donated to the Kobe Bryant and Vanessa Bryant Foundation. It's for the youth, it's for the kids. It doesn't go to them, just so that's clear. And as always, let's be great. I'm out, y'all. Peace.